The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL. It's time for the Texans Squad. Everything Houston Texans, every week.
What a night. The atmosphere, you could actually feel it through the TV at NRG. There was more red in there than I was expecting. I was expecting a lot more Buffalo blue. The Buffalo fans were still there. But Davis Mills at quarterback once again gets the job done, and the defense stands out all night long. Is it back on?
Is it back on?
Chase back on?
Can I come outside? Can I come outside? Do you get a sack? Wade, you get a sack. Stan, you get a sack. MC, you get a sack. I got a couple sacks. I'm just going to kick it off, y'all. The Houston Texans defense is by far the best defense we've seen since the Legion of Boom. They got it done with the front four. The secondary had some hiccups. Azeez Al-Shaair played an amazing game. We're not going to talk about him a lot like we should, but Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, my goodness, I know we're gonna do a FanDuel read, so I hope y'all put some parlays and some live bets on that Texan game. What an amazing game for the Houston Texans. I know y'all gonna kick it off, but I'm speechless.
Good speechless. Wait.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, that was an absolute textbook dominant performance by the defense of the Houston Texans. The offensive line for the Buffalo Bills is going to have a long day at the office watching this film because you went through it, and that first time going through it is bad enough, but then when you got to watch the film the next day, they definitely not going to be looking forward to that. The offense did enough to get a W, man. I tell you what, man, the defense did their thing, but the offense moved the ball. They ran the ball pretty well. They play action the ball pretty well. There was a couple of passes that Davis Mills missed that I think I'm looking forward to. With C.J. Stroud being in there, those will be completions, but the receivers were open. They had room to operate, room to work. Offensive line played pretty well. I mean, I know we're going to spend the majority of this night talking about the defense, but I got to show some love to what the offense was able to do because that's how they were able to win the game. You know, special teams kind of let them down a little bit, but that was a huge win for the Houston Texans. It puts them right back in position to control their own destiny. That's all you could ask for. They started off the season 0-3. Now you're 6-5. Like they said at the end of the game, six out of the last 8 games they've won. The defense won it for them. They finished the game. They've had opportunities to close out games and win them in the past, and they've fallen short. This time, they figured out a way to get it done. And I don't know if it ended up being 7 or 8 sacks, but that defensive line just ate. They ate, and they ate some more. I know they full, and they're going to keep eating for the rest of this year. I love what they're doing up front. You just see how they play, and you see that whole swarm mentality, it permeates throughout the entire building. So that was a beautiful game for the Houston Texans.
All right, Stan. Are they back?
You muted.
Oh, you're muted, yeah. Hit the button.
Are they back?
Yeah.
No, they're not back.
They're 6-5. They just beat Buffalo. You can't
Say
say
it. Come on, Stan. It's Thursday night.
No, y'all doing too much. Calm down. Calm down. I know we're in the entertainment business, but calm down. Let's talk real football here. Back to me means you are in the driver's seat in the division that you've won the previous 2 years. So by definition, no, they are not back. What I will do is tip my cap to the effort that they put forth tonight on national television in the sweet Battle Red unit. I love the all red joint.
Them joints amazing.
With the candy paint on the joint, Wade, with the horn.
Shout out to Brown Sound for playing Houston music in between the commercial breaks too.
Man, listen, whoever produced that tonight, I appreciate what they were doing in the truck. You handled your business. The graphics were right. They had everything ready to go. But I'm going to echo everything you all said, and the defensive effort, it was collective. Now, it's probably the second half of the show. We'll get into some things. It could have gone a little different, but they did enough. I was really impressed overall. We talked about coming into this week, did this team believe? And I said, Davis Mills has done enough the last 2 weeks that the defense believed, if just give us a chance, Davis. With Davis, we can go out here and win it, especially on a fast track in front of our home crowd. And they flew around. I was very curious to see what Joe Brady and that offensive line would do, led by Deion Dawkins, who had his hand full all night with both Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter. How would they combat the edge play? I was like, you can run. Wade will tell you. I've seen them try and do it to Julius Peppers and other outstanding edge defenders. They used to do it when I was in Dallas to DeMarcus Ware. Sometimes the best way to negate that pass rush and them boys screaming off the edge is to run right at them. I didn't see enough of that from Buffalo. Whatever the game plan was from Joe Brady, clearly Josh Allen got rattled, sacked 8 times. I think he was knocked around 12 total. It was a collective effort, and what's even more impressive, that's without your top 2 safeties in Jalen Petrie and MJ Stewart.
Right.
So back end of your secondary, Kalen Bullock, you. I know we got a ton of more show to talk about that, but to again, just to elaborate on where you all are, I thought the defensive game plan tonight, led by those 2 edge defenders, those linebackers were flying around. I can keep going, but it was a collective team effort tonight on defense, and the offense did just enough not to lose the game for them.
Yeah, and the craziest part of that game, guys, is that when you go back and we're going to look at it and talk about it again later on, really, and you could probably do this for many games this season, there were points left on the field, right? I mean, obviously you had a penalty on the interception return for a touchdown that, that was 4 extra points that you would have had in this football game. Wade, you mentioned it. There were some throws early on that weren't made that probably didn't help your chances there. It still feels like there's untapped potential there for a football team that could do more every week. Am I wrong there?
No, I think you're absolutely right. Like you guys mentioned, I think the first 3 drives for Davis Mills, where he struggled to have the 1 of 8 passing, 10 passing yards with a passer rating of 39.6. And then after those first 3 drives, 10 to 13, 112 yards, 2 TDs, 141 passer rating. So he absolutely kind of settled into the game a little bit. But I don't think he's able to do that without the first half performance of a few elements. Number 1, 0 sacks for the game. Now, this wasn't a team in Buffalo, especially after they lost Ed Oliver, that was getting after the quarterback. They started off hot, kind of failed in the last couple of weeks, but this is the 50-11. I remember back in the day, 50-11 time. This is the 50-11 offensive line combination, but it might be the best one. This was the best offensive line combination, right? So we got to give kudos to the O-line. Trent Brown, Titus Howard continue to be the captain that he is and just playing good football. But then also in that first half, I want to say the yards per carry for Houston on the ground was around 5.5. This offense looks completely different. When they run the ball for over 100 yards, they average 28 points in a game. So we look at the element that the offensive line provided for the running back group, and then we also saw how the offense was able to play off the play action game, which helped out Houston a lot in this game. So I thought Davis Mills played well in the first half. I thought the offensive line played well in the first half. I thought Nick Caley was masterful, especially in those last 3 drives in the first half. Overall, when I look at the points that were left out on the board, or what I like to call the opportunities left out there, you see the difference in between maybe CJ not being out there and then Davis Mills being out there, the pass to Dalton Schultz in the red zone that was underthrown. I think Houston settled for 3 there. And then also the Higgins, when he was wide open a couple of times, you look at the yards left out on the field and what that could have been. But opportunities was left out on the field, yeah. Can we nitpick it? I'm sure we will when we close out the show. You see the difference in the offense with CJ in terms of throws, without CJ, but O-line, man, I thought was
the difference.
Can't ask for better from the offensive line, and kudos to those guys.
Yeah.
You're muted, Wade.
Davis Mills looked comfortable out there in the pocket. They weren't pressuring him. He had opportunities to go through his progression, like we mentioned. Running the football helped with that as well, because the play action gave time for routes to develop down the field and you to get some explosive plays. I like the fact that they were able to distribute the ball to a lot of different guys. There was Christian Kirk making plays, Higgins making plays, Nico Collins making plays. Like, there was guys making plays all over the place. And that's the type of brand of ball that I'm sure that's what they pictured is this is what kind of team we're going to be. We're going to be able to distribute the ball to multiple guys. We're going to be able to run the football. I thought Woody Marks and Nick Chubb ran the ball hard. They like a lot of their yards. They were breaking tackles. They were falling forward. It wasn't just that the offensive line played well, because the offensive line did play well. But I like that the running backs ran hard and they got extra yards where they were there to get. So, I know Stan mentioned earlier that the offense did just enough not to lose the game, but I would say this. I thought that the offensive line played, and the offense played the style of game that plays right into what they want to do on the defense side of the ball. Remember, the defense only gave up one touchdown the entire game. The kickoff return for the touchdown, that's the only reason why this was an actual game. You take away that kickoff return for a touchdown, this ain't a game. This game is a 2-score game, and I think the Texans comfortably go ahead and finish it off. But special teams, they had that miscue. But besides that, like I said, I thought the offense moved the ball pretty consistently throughout the game. Even though they were also consistent of not being able to finish in the red zone. That's something that's been bothering them throughout this entire year. That kind of hit them again today, this game. But I thought that the offense played well. I thought the defensive back end, Bullock. This defense forces turnovers. That kid finds a way to find the ball. He usually is catching the ball. He's a midfield safety, and he's finding overthrows. But he caught a deflection. But that forced fumble that he made, to me, that was one of the most significant plays I've seen him make in his career. That was going to be a first down conversion for the Buffalo Bills, and he knocks that ball loose, and the Texans come away with the ball. I think they got a field goal in that game. That's the difference in the ball game when you look at it, because that last drive, Buffalo's having to score a touchdown as opposed to kicking a field goal to win it, and they got in range to kick that field goal. So I was just really, really excited with what I saw all the way around. Everything besides the kickoff team, I just thought it was a damn good performance, especially if you relate it back to what you've seen throughout the Texans this year. The offense played one of their better games tonight, and I thought the defense really solidified that they're the best defense in the league with their performance tonight.
I feared that this Thursday night game was going to end up resulting like last year's Thursday night game against Detroit. 5 interceptions. The Lions find a way to win that game. 8 sacks today, and then it still goes down to the wire. But when you talk about how they've gotten better throughout the year, Wade, 0-5 in 1-score games up until Seattle. Last 3 weeks with Davis Mills, up until Denver, 3 1-score victories. So you talk about a team that's finding themselves and being resilient and all of those classic cliches. This is what the Houston Texans team is right now. So shout out to DeMeco Ryans and his squad, because they are playing inspired football, and we need to call it that.
The 2 interceptions and the 1 forced fumble by Caitlin Bullock back there necessarily show up in the stat sheet. I thought Kamar Lassiter battled. They talked in the broadcast about how he's really a defensive lineman mentality out there on the corner. And you see he's a traditional SEC corner. He's going to be physical in the run game. He's going to be where he's supposed to be. And any of the limitations that were part of his draft evaluation, he has clearly exceeded or played up to his second-round draft selection. So he may not get the gaudy stats like Stingley gets on the other side, but his technique and playing within the confines of the defense, I thought was excellent. Again, especially being down 2 starters, or at least one other starter on the back end there. Well, 2 starters, in Jalen Petrie and MJ Stewart. I want to go back, though, to what I thought was a sneaky play of the game. It was the first drive of Buffalo in the 4th quarter. It was a 9-play, 40-yard drive. The first 4th down conversion that the Texans held them, I thought that was huge. They were really close. I thought if they could have got points there, I figured they were going to get the ball back. And now instead of having to score a touchdown, maybe a field goal would win it for them. But I thought that 4th down was exceptional. I thought the effort from the guys on the inside, Tim Settle, there's Tommy T showing up again. This might have been the best football game I've seen in 2025 from the Texans' interior of that defensive front. Rankins and the boys were all over the place. And it
Yes.
really, when you got those edge guys screaming, but then the inside big boys is cleaning it up, it's really not creating any seams for quarterbacks or running backs to be able. And you saw James Cook was trying to find somewhere to go. Let me get you going to the outside, and then let me come back inside for a little bit, and it just wasn't there. So hats off to the big boys up front on the interior of that D-line cooking as well.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet in the moment, whether it's building a same-game parlay or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit more juice to my Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to get started and place your first $5 bet.
The Bills got beat up in Houston.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast.
The Buffalo Bills lost to the Houston Texans 23-19 and fall to 7-4 on the season. Very frustrating loss. The Bills made tons of mistakes. It felt like they were overmatched at times, yet they still had a good chance to win this football game and couldn't get it done. There's a lot of questions, a lot of worthy questions about this football team and their consistency and their capacity. And ultimately, there are very real limitations with the Buffalo Bills that make it tough for them to perform consistently well. It's very disappointing to be at this point, and it absolutely feels like the Bills are falling behind in the AFC. And so we will talk about this game. We'll talk some big picture stuff as well. But we got to get into the offense. It was an awful, awful day for the Buffalo Bills offense. Some really, really frustrating sequences. And I absolutely recognize how great Houston's defense is. They are a phenomenal, phenomenal group. Give them credit. They played great. They're a great defense. The Bills' offense struggled big time. And I want to kind of just go through the drives and highlight just some really bad sequences that are prohibitive to winning football games. Now, obviously, you loved how it started. 10 plays, 81 yards. You get a touchdown, the 45-yard James Cook touchdown. We love that. Well, you respond to your touchdown with a 3-and-out, and you get 6 yards on first down, and then it's -2 to Shakir on the bubble screen that everyone's ready for now, which gets you to a 3rd and 6, and then Josh Allen scrambles for 2 yards, and the Bills punt. Then you get a field goal. And this is a very frustrating field goal because the Bills were 1st and 10 from the Houston 14. 1st and 10 from the 14. Your first down play is a -2-yard run to Ty Johnson. Then Josh Allen takes a 10-yard loss on 2nd down to make it 3rd and 22. You ultimately throw an incomplete pass and you kick a field goal. So you go from 1st and 10 at the 14 to 4th and 22. It's bad. Then you throw an interception on the very first play of the next drive. And what's frustrating about that is it's right after Houston has their best offensive drive. They go 12 plays, 77 yards. They take almost 6 minutes off the clock. And on the first possession, or the first play of the following possession, you give the ball right back to Houston. Now, credit to the defense, they held them to 3 points, but that's a very frustrating sequence to have your worst defensive series of the game and then put the defense right back out there. And I'll be honest with you, I really didn't take much exception with the interception. That's a heck of a play by the linebacker, Azeez Al-Shaair. I saw what Josh saw. He was leaning towards driving on a outbreaker and he's able to very quickly not close and puts his hands up and tips the ball in the air and makes a play. Like, whatever, that happens. But the timing was horrible. You put your defense right back out there. Now you hold them to 3, which is great. And then you get the Ray Davis kick return for a touchdown. Love that, right? Love that. And then the end of half for the Bills offense. You come out of the third quarter, and the opening drive, the Bills go 5 plays and punt. Josh Allen is sacked for an 18-yard loss on 3rd and 16. The next drive, you wind up punting. You go with a punt here on a 3rd and 1 play. Josh Allen is sacked for a 5-yard loss. Then you go 3 plays and fumble. Josh Allen hits a throw on 3rd and 3 for 13 yards, but Khalil Shakir fumbles the ball. Then you get to the fourth quarter, and this was one of my most frustrating moments. You go turnover on downs on that opening drive of the fourth quarter, where you have a 20-yard run from James Cook, and then you proceed to run it 4 more times with James Cook. And you get to a 4th and 1, where James Cook is trying to get out of the game. He's obviously tired. He had the 20-yard run and then ran it 3 more times. So 4 runs in a row. He's trying to get out of the game. And then you lose 2 yards on 4th and 1. And I think it was more about Osiris Torrance on that play than it was James Cook, but just a terrible sequence. Points are at a premium. You can't leave them on the board. You were 1st and 10 from the 32. You came away with no points. Then you get a field goal on the next drive where you're 1st and 10 at the 20. You're sacked on 1st down. You can't overcome it. Then you have the game-winning drive opportunity, and you overcome a 4th and 27 with a really fun play, the lateral that you get 44 yards on. And then it comes down to, Gabe Davis can't get the second foot down. You're 4th and 1. Deion Dawkins, false start. You're 4th and 6. The play call comes in late on a 4th and 6. You're out of sorts in a high leverage moment. Josh Allen throws a pick. And Josh Allen's, on the sideline talking to Mitch Trubisky saying, what are we doing? And in the post game, he's talking about how it was rushed. The play call came in and he probably needed to call timeout. Like, when you're in the most critical moment of the game, your operation is completely unsettled. Your franchise left tackle goes false start on 4th and 1. You're not getting the play call in a timely manner on 4th and 6, like with the game on the line. There's no other play. You don't get it. It's over. The Bills, once again, in a end of game moment where you got to have it, they're out of sorts. Their operation lets them down. Just a bad day for this offense. You can't finish drives. You can't pass protect. You can't stay on schedule in the run game. Houston's playing their top-down defense. They're fast. They're physical. They overmatch the Bills. You scored 19 points, but thank God you got a kick return for a touchdown and a 45-yard touchdown run. The Bills might have just had a couple of field goals to show for this game. Offensive line's getting beat up. Josh Allen is sacked 8 times. He's hit 12 more. The offense was completely out of sorts. You just didn't have the right stuff. And again, I get it. Houston's defense is really good. I didn't expect the Bills to go out there and play clean offense and have 400 yards and 30 points. That was never my expectation. But when you did have opportunities to finish drives, you failed every single time. 0 for 2 in the red zone. And these are just moments against this type of team and that type of game where you're not winning the field position battle. When you have opportunities to make plays, you got to make them. You can't, Khalil Shakir, you can't fumble. You cannot fumble there, dude. You got to have your operation correct on a 4th and game. And it wasn't. It's a bad day. It's a bad loss. And whatever. Like I said, I expected Houston's defense to look really good. But when you have opportunities, you got to get it done. And you couldn't get it done.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet in the moment, whether it's building a same-game parlay or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit more juice to my Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to get started and place your first $5 bet.
It's the Bengals Squad. Everything Cincinnati Bengals every week.
Plenty happening around the Cincinnati Bengals this week. Joe Burrow is taking reps, first-team reps, consecutive days in practice. Unfortunately, if he does play on Sunday, as Jake, you alluded to, in the cold open, he will be without his number one weapon, pun intended, in more ways than one. Jake, I'll turn to you first. Will he or won't he? Will Joe Burrow play on Sunday against the New England Patriots?
Can't rule it out, which feels crazy. I'm not going to make a bold prediction. Those who have been following me long enough know that I am not in the prediction game. I don't see the point of it, frankly. But the information that we have is that Zach Taylor hasn't said no, and Joe Burrow has practiced for 2 straight days. He went full on Wednesday. I was just looking to see if we had an injury report yet. For Thursday, I haven't seen one, but he practiced again with the ones, according to reporters who were at the practice before they were kicked out, which is only to see like the indie stuff and the stretching at the beginning of practice. So it's not like we know yet if he did a full practice on Thursday as of 4:03 p.m. as we're chatting here on the Bengals Squad show. But the fact that he continued to work with the ones, working with Ted Karras when reporters were present, T. Higgins saying he wouldn't be surprised if Joe's going to play, that he looked excellent in practice. Sure feels like there's a lot of momentum toward Joe Burrow really pushing to return to action this week. And it takes me back to his comments when he spoke with the media for the first time since he had the injury. And he said, I will see how the team does. It could be earlier in the window, could be later in the window. And at the time, it was like, well, maybe he means if they lose the games, he'll shut it down and he won't risk re-injuring the toe. In retrospect, it appears that he meant, if they lose, maybe I'll push this thing and try to get back sooner to give ourselves a shot here.
I'm going to hit the wrong button there. Art, I'm going to turn to you. That's a great point there, Jake, about because the Bengals are now 3-7. If there's any hope that they're going to make the playoffs, I think they may have to win out. Art, I'll turn to you. If you're a coach, and you've coached many star players in your coaching career, Carnell Cadillac Williams, Joe Juravicius, just to name a few. But if you have a star player on your team returning from the kind of injury that Burrow sustained in week 2, grade 3 turf toe, but yet he's ahead of schedule, factor in being 3-7, not really being in the thick of the playoff race, how should the Bengals coaching staff be handling Joe Burrow, in this case, factoring in everything we know about him and him wanting to play? How would you handle this if you were on the Bengals coaching staff?
Well, I think it goes as the season goes. Up until last week, Joe Flacco had done a very good job offensively. They put themselves in a position to win. All of a sudden now, they can't do anything about the other side of the ball. So now you have your star player coming back, who's we don't know because we're not at practice. He might have participated in 7-on-7, no pass rush. Might have participated in 11-on-11 team, no pass rush, basically. They're always going to pull out the quarterback. Has he had to scramble? Has he had to move around? Can he step up in the pocket? If it was me, I'd say, you know what, let's give it another week. Let's keep evaluating him. And as long as Joe Flacco is healthy and good to go, let's go with Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco has been very good, minus last week against Pittsburgh. But when you have a guy like Joe Burrow, who we know who he is at this point in his career, he's been to a Super Bowl, he's been to 2 AFC championships, he's had MVP caliber seasons in 3 of his 5 seasons that he has played. Unfortunately, they're only the 3 full seasons he's played in his career. This season also will not be a full season. This is for both of you. I want to hear from both of you. Jake, you've obviously been around Joe Burrow and this team, being on the Daily Bengals beat. Art, you have watched Joe Burrow from afar. But what you see from Joe Burrow, how commendable is it that A, he's this far ahead of schedule in his rehab, and B, even though the Bengals are 3-7 and this season hasn't gone at all that they expected, he still wants to play and be out on that field for himself, this team, and the city of Cincinnati.
Yeah, we talked about this in our last episode of the week on Locked On Bengals, and we might have to do another episode of Locked On Bengals between James and myself this week if there's suddenly an announcement on Friday or Saturday that Joe Burrow is going to start. But if you put yourself in the mindset of Joe Burrow here, Joe Burrow, elite competitor, wants more than anything to win, wants more than anything to be playing meaningful football in the winter. So if you're Joe Burrow and you're looking at your chances here, and you're pretty confident in yourself, you know I'm one of the best, if not the best, to do what I do in the world. And what I do happens to be the most important position in sports and is most correlated with winning across every sport. And if I'm that good, I think if I'm Joe Burrow, I can win the rest of the games. Of course I do. Of course I think I'm going to go out there and run the table when I return. I've done it before. I've won a bunch of games down the stretch. Of course I can do it again. I don't know how honest that is about his defense and the struggles that they've had on the other side of the ball, as Art alluded to earlier. But if you're Burrow and you want to give yourself a shot to get to the playoffs, it does kind of need to start this week because the Bengals lost to the Jets, because the Bengals lost to the Bears, because the Bengals couldn't figure out a way to beat the Steelers last week and get that AFC North win. Realistically, if you want to give yourself a shot, kind of has to start this week. The other side of this is I wonder how far ahead of schedule Joe Burrow really is. I think this is a fascinating case study to review if the details ever do emerge around what his rehab has looked like and what treatments he's gone through. 63 days or whatever it is removed from this turf toe surgery to return to play in the NFL is pretty insane. I had my own physical therapy appointment this morning for an injury that I'm dealing with and talked to my physio about it. And I've asked him about it a few times just because he's a medical expert and has, the ability to talk about this stuff from a position of expertise. And he was also shocked. So it will be very interesting to see if he does return this week, how he's moving. It'll be interesting to find out what kind of protection he has in that shoe. And I'll be fascinated if he does return this week to just learn about the protocol that's gotten him to a point where he feels like he can go back out there without a severe risk of re-injury, which I hope is the case, because I do think that risk of re-injury is a scary thing.